Hey guys, in this one I'm going to show you how to make the signet ring. So this task, it's fairly straightforward. You are going to make a simple tabled signet ring. So I've set this document up in small objects millimeters, and then in the front view I'm going to grab the circle tool, 0 to center my circle on the origin point, and then draw it to the diameter of my size. And if you don't know your ring size, you can look it up on ringsizes.co, or you can pop a piece of string around your finger and then measure that and then convert it from a circumference into a diameter. So 22.5 for me. And then the top view, I'm going to draw the circle for the table, so 0, and then set this for a diameter of about 12 mil. Should be fine. That will give me this circle here, so I need to move this into position. So if you're not seeing the gumball active, go down and make sure to turn this on, one of your modeling aids. The same with grid snap, orthographic and planar. Now sometimes people have some problems with object snap, so if this is, you're trying to turn it on, but you don't have any object snaps actually activated, this is going to stay not bold, so emboldened. So turn these on. The ones that I would recommend you generally to have on would be end, mid, and quad, as these are the kind of the most commonly used ones. So then I'll move this up. You want this to be roughly somewhere between 3 and 5 mil between the center of your ring shank and here. So just move it up to about 4 mil. Next piece we're going to do is to make some sections for the thickness for the ring. So in the front view, I will just grab the polyline tool. We're going to draw a line from this quad out 2 millimeters. So to make sure it's exactly 2 millimeters, if we use our grid snap, you can see that it's 1.925, and yours might be a little bit different because you're working on a different ring size. So you type in 2 and then point it in the direction that you would like it to go. So I want it to go out this way, and then left click and then right click to finish that command. And then on the opposite side, you can see it doesn't match our grid anymore. And if it did, then this would again be a little bit different in size than I really want. So type in 2, point it in to the direction that you want. So you can see if you move your mouse around, it's going to allow you to rotate it and orientate it. Left click, and then it's going to expect you maybe to draw another section. You can just right click to finish that. And then down at the bottom, this one should be 1.8 millimeters. So 1.8, press enter, and then point it in the direction that you want, and right click. Next of all, would like to make an arc that spans these 3 sections. So over here you have the arc command. So if you left click and hold down, you can see all of the different options. If you left click on that menu item, you can make that stay out and persist. So I'll just bring that out, and then you can see all of the different arc commands that are available to you. So I'll pick this one, start, end, and a point on arc. So we can pick the end point here, and then the end point here, and this will make your little arc that will span the 3 of those objects. And now we're starting to think about, well, what shape might this ring have? So it's going to have some sort of curved shape, and there are lots of different ways that you could make this. This is a beginner kind of exercise and tutorial, so we'll just use the control point curve to draw this. So draw it, make sure it snaps to the end point, draw a straight line up, and then maybe a point over here. Now, I want it to go over here, and it's not going over here because I have orthographic on. You can toggle that off for a moment by holding the shift key on your keyboard, and that will allow you to then pick another point. And then I can go up and pick the quad or the end point from this. So then we have a nice kind of sweep to our signet ring. I'm going to copy this from this side to the other. So the easiest tool to do that with will be the mirror tool. So left click and hold down on the move tool, and then in here you'll see you have the mirror tool. And then because our model is centered on 0, you can just go down and pick that 0 point and then mirror it across again because we have orthographic on it. It works perfect. Then you can have a look at it in 3D. So you can see what we're starting to describe the shape that we're looking for here. I'll take those 3 help curves. So those 3 points here. Left click and drag, and any objects that are inside the selection box will get selected. You can add and remove from a selection. So if you wanted to add something, you'd hold the shift key. If you want to drop something from a selection, hold the control key and then click on it. And then I'm just going to hide those for the moment, just in case I need them later on. Now I'm going to draw a line in here to give an arc so I can describe this from this side. So I will go to my 4 views and go to the curve menu, line, single line, and I'm going to draw that from this quadrant here. And I'm going to make sure that it's drawing in both sides. So I only have to draw from the center point. I'm going to make sure this line is in total 4 millimeters, so 2 millimeters sticking on this side, and left click, and that draws that. Grab the arc from start, end, and a point on arc, and grab this end to this end down to the quadrant at the bottom, and that gives us this kind of nice D shape that we want to have for this particular ring. Now we're going to add a line which is going to draw from the quadrant here down to this point. So to do that, we're going to use a command, a line which is a tangent to this. So curve, line, and then tangent from curve. Go down here and hover the mouse somewhere around here. Rhino is going to work out where exactly that point is, and then grab the quadrant up here. So Rhino is working out where's the best tangent for that. And then you can use the mirror command again. So select this. So when you drag right to left, anything that the selection box touches gets selected. And if you right click on the command line up here, you have your history. And then you can see all the commands. Now, just use the mirror command. So handily enough, it's there for us. And then we can pick somewhere along the center line and drop it over to the other side. And now just need to tidy up those little pieces here, those little gaps. So select this and this, grab trim, and cut away this excess piece here. Here. Right click to finish the command. Hold shift and grab this as well, and join all of those 3 pieces together. So join 3 curves joined into one open curve. And now going to go and grab this section up here and split these apart. And we're going to join these together. So we're going to join these together, and then we're going to split these 4 pieces, or these 2 pieces into 4 pieces, I should say, rather. And then we're also going to draw a piece that describes what the bulge of this ring would look like. So if we do that first, grab an ellipse, draw it from its center, and because we're centered on 0, again, really handy, draw it over here, and then we want to find this point here. And to do that, we need to use one of our handy object snaps. Go down and grab intersection, and then this will find the exact point of where those 2 lines cross and touch each other. Now it's time to split these 2 parts. So grab the split tool, grab this V first, and use the other direction to split it. One curve split into 2 pieces. So you can see here, this one has been split into 2. And now we're going to pick this one up and do the exact same. So select the cutting object, this one, and now it's also one curve split into 2. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces. And this is important because of the way Rhino constructs objects. So Rhino constructs construct objects using U and V lines and a grid, kind of a square grid-based system. So I'm going to take this line and hide that, and take this piece and move this onto a different layer so it doesn't interfere with what you're seeing. So that over, and then I'll just turn the visibility off on that so it's not going to interfere. Select all of your objects and then go to Surface, Curve Network, and then Rhino is going to give you a little preview of what this looks like. So you can move around it. Now, sometimes using the wireframe is really helpful for this. Maybe you're not on the most powerful computer, but often when you're making 3D shapes, you want to see these as shaded so you can get a better understanding of how this shape and form looks. So you can see it's following our curves really neatly and looks pretty good. There's a tiny little problem down here. You can see it kind of bulges out a little bit, but we'll fix that in a few moments. Choose OK. And last thing with this piece, we want to put a top on it. So just use the solid cap menu. So solid cap planar hole, and that will put it and make this into a closed poly surface so that we can then use the Boolean tools to subtract that other piece. So turn on the red layer and start to work on that. And we can go into from perspective into the 4 viewports so that we can see it, pick up that piece. You could also click and drag and select through this way, but sometimes, like here, you pick up extra objects, so it's easier for you to just pick it up. Then I'll go into the solid menu, extrude planar curve, straight, and just like the drawing that line, we're in the middle of our object, so we want to choose both sides. I would just need to extend this so that it's a little bit larger than our ring, just to make sure that it does intersect it fully. And then you're going to use the Boolean difference to subtract this ring from this piece. So I'm going to go back and make sure I'm working on my layer that has the ring on it. Select this, go over to the Boolean tools, and we want option number 2, Boolean difference. It's going to ask, if you have nothing selected, it will first ask you what is the object that you want to subtract things from, the one that you want to keep. And then after you pick that, it's going to ask you, what do you want to subtract from this object? So width in this case. And then I'm going to make sure my delete input is set to yes. And then right click, and that will subtract that out of it. So I've made this really nice signet ring. So far, so good. Now you can see with that method, you can see that there's a little bit of a problem with kind of a bulge on this ring. So we need to fix this and cut out a little section from it. So in the front view, just going to go and grab a polyline. So I'll draw that from 0. So again, the center of our object. And because orthographic is on, just hold your shift key so that you can draw it at a diagonal. I'm just going to cut out here. And then grab that line and use the mirror tool again. So I could either, it's under the move tool. I could either right click on the command line to get that, or just go over to the menu directly. We're going to cut out this section here in the middle. So if you have a look, you can see the line is centered on it. And then grab your trim tool and cut away this section of ring, the section where that problem of bulge is. And now we're going to use a piece from this curve and this line to cut it to make a section which matches this exactly. So I'm going to pick up these two, and using the layer, I'm going to copy these, and I'm just going to copy these onto the next available layer, and then turn off the red layer. And here, in order to make this work, we need a copy of the end. section from this, so the open section here and here. And to do that, just going to grab the surface or the poly surface and then curve some objects, duplicate border. And this will draw you those borders. So you can see it's telling you in the command line, duplicated 2 borders. And I'm just going to move those as well onto that same purple layer. So there are 2. And turn that on, turn these off, so you can see that's all that we're working with. I'm going to use the trim command and trim away the excess from the outside. So these, I'm just left with this section here. And this gives us all of the information that we need to fix this properly. So we could use the sweep 1 rail or sweep 2 rail commands. So surface, if we use sweep 1 rail, you can just use the inside one and then choose these 2 profiles. It's going to make one like this. Okay. And then you can see, let's grab that second curve. Just let's see how closely that follows it. You can see it extends out a little bit to make these blend. So if it was really important that you were following that curve exactly, you would use the sweep 2 rail command. So surface, sweep 2 rails, select rail 1, rail 2. Oh, these aren't joined, so I'll need to join those first. So Control J, and then go back into the sweep 2 rail command. 2, and then the 2 profiles. And now you can see that it follows that exactly, and this will match our ring exactly. Choose OK. And now to move this back onto the other layer. So layer cake, move object, set it onto the default layer and set that as our current layer, and it will turn it on for us as well at the same time. And sometimes this happens where your viewport doesn't refresh until you move your camera. So if you're wondering why things didn't appear. So it's exactly what we're looking for. Pick this up and the rest of the ring shank and join them together, and we should get 2 surfaces or poly surfaces joined into 1 closed poly surface. So this would be perfect then for 3D printing and so on. Okay. Now the other things that you would want to do to this is a really heavy ring, so you would probably want to give this a little bit of a weight reduction for this. So to do that, I'm just going to take a copy of that and move that onto the next free layer, so the blue one, and set this one on, just so I don't have to hide all of these curves while I'm doing it. So pick it up, Control C to copy, Control V to paste, and that will paste a copy of the object into the exact same space that it's come from. So if you don't believe me, there you go. Just undo that move. And now I'm going to shrink this one down. And in this case, I'm going to make sure that I'm able to see this from different views, so I can see if it's scaling in the way that I imagine. So if I grab the gumball widget, so instead of the arrow end, the opposite end, this will allow you to scale your object. And if I hold shift at the same time, this will allow me to do a uniform scale over my object. I probably want it somewhere, right about there. I could squeeze this in a little bit so that it doesn't hit the sides as much. And if you need to, just turn off grid snaps so that you can resize this with somewhere in between where your units are working with. So, these millimeter boxes are quite large for this. And then that will give you this shape sticking inside of the other. And just turn back on my grid snap so I don't forget about it. And now I'm going to subtract this one from this object. So again, Boolean difference. Select the objects that you want to subtract from, this one, and then the one that you want to take away, and delete input to yes, press enter, and now I get something which is much more comfortable, not just comfortable to wear, but it also gives a good reduction in the amount of materials that you really need for this. So this would save you quite a bit of money for this object. And then that's your ring completed. Well done.